Well, you are looking there at shocking new photos of suspected shooter Cole Allen taken in his hotel room just moments before he attacked the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The shooting marked the third attempted assassination plot targeting President Trump in just 2 years. And despite fresh calls to cool the rhetoric that puts a target on Trump's back, some on the left are digging in. Governor J.B. Pritzker, when reacting to the DOJ indicting Comey, somehow finding a way to accuse Trump of inciting violence.
This president is guilty of inciting violence, and now he's using the First Amendment. He's going after people for exercising their First Amendment rights and claiming that they're the ones who are attacking people. This whole administration seems full of people who are just following whatever this demented president tells them to do.
Others on the left are deflecting, insisting that political violence is not a Democrat problem, even though Republicans have been the target of numerous attacks. Watch.
No one's legitimizing violence in any way. I have very little patience for this. Has the president faced 3 threats in the last couple of years? Absolutely. Is that abominable? Absolutely. The problem of political violence and extremism is evident on both sides.
The Democrats are blamed all for their rhetoric. When what I hear over and over again is Democrats saying, please tone it down, please tone down the rhetoric. That's not what we stand for. And we have seen, frankly, from the other side, from Trump and others, elevated rhetoric. Now, you don't want to get a he said, she said place, but it's really infuriating.
But Vice President J.D. Vance is pushing back, telling Will Cain that rage-fueled Democrats
and listen to the same sources of information that I listen to. Maybe that suggests the left has got to tone down the rhetoric a little bit.
Yeah, Jesse, it's incredible how lopsided it is. I don't know the rose-colored glasses that they're using.
Well, the glasses are worn by 2 Democrat press flacks for Democrat presidents. Where would they get this idea, Emily, that Trump is such a threat, that he needs to be taken out? Where would they get the idea that he's such a unique danger, a genocidal dictator like Hitler, who at any day could just kill everybody in sight? Where would they get the idea that he's mentally deranged and that the cabinet and perhaps the military might have to do something about that? That he's already putting immigrants, innocent ones, in concentration camps and killing innocent fishermen? Where would they get the idea that he was a Russian traitor, a sexist, white supremacist who his slogan means really go back to when women and blacks couldn't vote? This isn't coming from the dark underbelly of the internet. This is coming from the mainstream media, in the New York Times, on network TV, on network late night television. You go online and this is what they say. And they can't stop saying it because they can't dial it back. It's who they are. Everything they're saying defines everything about them. If you strip out the hate, they have nothing. There's no policy. There's no agenda. They can't have an executive say, hey, you know, guys, maybe don't book the guy that calls Trump Hitler. Maybe don't have him on again. You know, the rundown where you're calling him a genocidal maniac conducting illegal wars, money. And that's why it's being driven so strongly, because the ratings are going down. And you can see as the ratings go down, the hatred and the insanity goes up, and it's going to reach a breaking point pretty soon.
Well, some argue, Dana, the breaking point is 3 assassination attempts on the president, that by the grace of God, he survived them. But I mean, what the future, it seems really terrifying. And to your point, I was under the table with a lot of journalists that use words like Kristallnacht and likened his campaign rally here at MSG to Nazi Germany and Hitler-esque. I mean, these are words that are in headlines in these mainstream media journalists.
Well, unity was over by the time President Trump finished the press conference on Saturday night. But I really think, in some ways, obviously there are people on cable news hits, but I was mentioning yesterday, but since this is a new group, I will say it again, because I keep thinking about where everybody is in the muck and in the soup. And there's the cable news, yes, okay, and the media, yes, okay. But where people are mostly getting information is online, and that is where it is really just disgusting, filled with conspiracy theories. We're going to probably talk about that in a little bit as well, as we did yesterday, as we should. The one thing I wonder about the Democrats is there's a lot of them who want to be president, and they want to run in 2028. So they keep doing the same thing over and over again. There's been 3 assassination attempts. We have the same thing happen each time. There's a call for unity or a call for calming down the rhetoric. And then they'll say, okay, yeah, we should do that, but he should do that. And then within 30 minutes, it's over and everybody's going back. And I just wonder, is there a Democrat out there who is smart enough to say, I'll do something different, Mr. President, that's willing to have a good faith conversation? And so is there a Democrat who has the courage to think about not just catering to the far left-wing base of the party, but to actually lead more in a way that says, I'm willing to do something different and to try to change the trajectory of these things that would maybe change the conversation, maybe get a few things done. Like, there are some big problems that the country is facing that we could all maybe use some unity on, and at least going forward, and have somebody moderate the conversation. Maybe it's Harold. Maybe Harold and I go together and we moderate this conversation. I mean, there seems to me there's a room for something new and different if somebody's willing to pivot.
I love that suggestion, Harold, and especially because it benefits the American people whom the Democrats serve, as do Republicans. But I note that it seems to me that any Democrat that tries to do that in any primaries or by their colleagues, they are slandered and slammed as allying with Donald Trump, that being bipartisan is actually a negative against their history, that somehow being defiant and engaging in this violent rhetoric is the only way for their stock to remain approved on the Democrat side.
I don't know about that. I think it probably goes both ways. It may, you see Tom Massey and others who differ with the president. They face some primary challenges. But it's good to be with everybody. I hope you guys had a great time at the dinner celebrating our country in the 250 years. I'm reminded of King Charles as we talk about this because I thought his speech yesterday was outstanding. I wasn't on the show yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to comment. The seriousness of the speech, the way he appealed to the best of us, and even when he talked about his differences and our country's differences, he talked about it, whether it be NATO or other things. He talked about it that we can forget that a lot of Americans, if not the overwhelming majority of our audience, are working their tails off and watch us for a little news or for a little entertainment or for both. And yesterday, a lot of people were being introduced to him. And I thought the way he talked about our differences, the U.S. and the UK on NATO and other things was so great. Now, I've said my piece on this issue. And I think that, and I'll just repeat the highlights of it. I think that if we don't accept the fact that we're all drowning in all of this rhetoric, the negative rhetoric, I don't doubt, nor do I dispute that Democrats are probably the biggest generators of it now, the negative things, the awful things. But Emily and everyone around the table, I'll remind us, we are steeped, unfortunately, in a tradition of violence in our country, and even political violence at times. The data shows that the last 10 years, maybe right-wing groups were more responsible for some of it. In the last year and a half, this is just the data, the last year and a half, Democrats or the left-wing leaning groups have certainly been the biggest agitators, and according to the data, more of it is coming from left-wing or Democrats and others. Now, I take no solace over the last 10 years or contentment or inspiration because the violence may have been coming from right-leaning groups. Nor should anyone take any solace because it may be coming from left-leaning groups. We're all going to be devoured by this rhetoric if our political body and political system is unable to function because as I said the other day, there's a rot in our country. But I want to be clear. I'd go with Dana anywhere. Dana asked me to go to talk about politics and to talk about trying to solve things because I think at the end of the day, if all we do, and I tried to say it yesterday or 2 days ago, if all we do is with you, if they let us in at the White House, I'm with you.
Where are we going?
And Greg, we're learning that the right-wing extremist violence was actually funded by the left-wing extremists. So that it seems to be that per your point, recently it is coming all from one source, and it would be nice if the leadership had any attempt at quelling it.
Yeah, and also the research that the media uses to kind of equate both sides is incredibly flawed. A joke even. I mean, I could just list the types of crimes, whether it is ambushes. We remember the ambushes. We remember the sustained rioting, the sustained looting, the attacks on government facilities, the attacks on law enforcement, businesses, individuals, religious institutions. It's like something nearly 500 in the past, 7 years that could be linked to the left, one to the right, January 6th. And that has been exploited. We know that. I am going to say let's just ignore the rhetoric. We're never going to get past that. The rhetoric thing is done. It's a tradition in America to say bad things about people. So why don't we just ask who's guilty of the violence? That's the avoidance that we're seeing in the media. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get us into the battle over rhetoric. Well, you guys do it too. Well, I do it too. Okay, then let's just find out what side's words lead to violence. Because I agree with you, Trump says some really mean things, but we don't kill the Democrats afterwards. Liberals won't advance to that next step. They want you to believe it's about the quantity of rhetoric when it's really the quantity of violence from the rhetoric. Both sides are doing it. They're not denying that they're doing it. Yeah, you got me.
But I want to be clear.
Wait, no, I'm not talking about you, Harold.
I'm guilty of what you said. I admit both sides do it. I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let me go. When somebody says both sides do it, they aren't defending their side. They're just saying you do it too. So instead of arguing against the accusation, they expand the definition of what it is. So I'm just talking about violence, okay? That was created by political instruction to do so. By all means necessary, eliminate. But they said, well, you call Democrats communists. You call them losers and creeps. Not the point. I'm just talking about the sustained violence. So when they say on both sides, they are basically just shifting, I hate to say goalposts, but they're changing it. My last point, and then I'll shut up. We're all familiar with the broken windows theory, where visible signs of disorder create a lack of societal control. And that encourages for more and more serious crimes. Where did this left-wing violence come from? Well, how many instances have we seen in the last 10 years where conservatives were targeted on campus? Pro-lifers get attacked, Riley Gaines gets swarmed, speakers are mobbed, vandalism everywhere. No, countless attacks. Nobody gets charged. Tolerance towards that violence was the broken window theory that now makes it seem to younger people, young men, that violence is now more acceptable. It's the same kind of incubation you see on city streets, where, vandalism, public urination then leads to mugging. So
That's a really good point, the broken window theory on politics.
But we can't ignore the fact that violence has been a part because rhetoric has led them to it. What I'm saying is I'm not comfortable, and I'm not saying you are either. I'm not saying it's okay if it's the Republicans.
Yeah, I'm not talking about you,
and I think
Harold.
some people, and I'm not talking about you. I think some people are okay with it, saying it's them. When I'm telling you, it's going to come for all of us
yes,
if we don't find ways to deal with the
But
riots.
if it does come for all of us, it's not going to come from us.
Yeah,
I disagree, because it has come from a side.
You can give me, well, we've done this before,
Abortion
but
activists, abortion clinics being blown up. Charleston, the guy going into a prayer group and saying, "I'm killing you because you're black."
You want me to go through the 500 examples?
No, but Greg, I think it goes to his word. You don't like the words. It's both sides. And to me, what both sides means is America. We've got to solve this for America.
I think we're talking past each other.
No, I think we're talking to each other. I'm going to talk.
You know what? I'm going to talk behind your back.
I'm going to talk about you.
If you just are talking about political violence, though, graduation matters. And when you talked about those words, when you said loser, when you said creep, when you said communist, those aren't words that put death targets on people's back. Name me one Republican president that has not been called a Nazi. You can't name one.
Well,
that's the issue on the left, and that's what puts
What
targets.
did they call Republicans before Hitler?
I don't know.
Mean-spirited.
Awesome.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
2026. Politics and national security. White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. A suspect identified as California man Cole Allen is facing charges for an attempted assassination. New details emerged from a manifesto outlining a plan to target Trump officials. Iran conflict. An Iranian deal has been proposed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to end the war, while the Pentagon reports the conflict has cost the U.S. an estimated $25 billion so far. FISA renewal. The House passed a bipartisan renewal of the Foreign Intelligence